Welcome to another installment of Fat Man Food Review, or as it should be known now, Asshole Eats Apples. Yes, that's right, we're back at it again, cracking into two apples one more time. Who am I kidding? Both of these apples are brand new to me, both of which I've never even heard of before. The first apple we'll be trying is the SugarBee. It's a very small, compact, similar to the ambrosia apple, but has a much deeper, richer red color to it. I mean, this is like some Snow White shit right here. She's the one that ate the apple, right? KiKu, the KiKu apple. This is the first I've heard or seen of this apple. It also has an extremely deep, vibrant red color. As you can notice, there are streaks of light yellow throughout the apple, which gives it a very unique look. The skin on both apples is very, very smooth. All right, so let's crack into our first apple today, the SugarBee. Let's crack straight into it. Right off the first bite, amazingly crisp apple. Your teeth sink right into it and it just breaks right apart in your mouth. Very crisp, very crunchy. Not the juiciest apple, but it is very juicy. When you bite into it, you get a burst of sweetness followed by that very ambrosia-like apple flavor. Very sweet, strong apple flavor. The skin seems very light, delicate. Let's take another bite. Yes, absolutely delicious. Easily one of the top apples we've tried. Very good complex flavor. Lasts throughout the entirety of the bite. The skin, you don't even notice it. The apple flesh itself is so sweet and flavorful. Not only sweet, but with that rich apple flavor to it that you don't even notice the skin. I have to say, it is a small apple, much like the ambrosia apple. And with small apples, the core to apple ratio is even more important than the larger ones, in my opinion. So we'll have to take a look at that here in a second. Very vibrant red peel, delicious. The peel itself, there is a very mild flavor to it, but you have to search, you have to look for that flavor to even notice it comparative to the apple itself. I will say, we've only taken like 3 or 4 bites, and as you can see, we are a good portion through the apple already. The juiciness of the apple is becoming more and more apparent as you eat more of the apple. Yeah, very rich, very deep apple flavor with this. The SugarBee, I have to say, is pretty daggone delicious. As you can see, it does have a nice core to apple ratio. This core is a little bigger than the apple to our side here. This is more along the lines of what you're going to see, but this was a larger one. I have to say, they're pretty fantastic. Flavor-wise, crispness, they're top of the list. It's not number one. I would still have, my remembrance of the ambrosia puts it above the SugarBee, but as of right now, that's the only apple we've tried that has the flavor and sweetness that can even compare to an ambrosia apple. So if you ever see some SugarBees around, I would definitely recommend them. They're not very expensive, especially compared to certain other apples like Honeycrisp, Like, I don't know why the hell those are so expensive. They also have a very long shelf life. I've had that apple I just ate a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks. It is just as firm, crisp, and delicious as the ones I bought that day. So very good shelf life. I will say though, it's not something you have to worry about, especially if you don't buy a lot or if you have a large family, because them motherfuckers, they gonna be gone. They gonna get ate, bro. Like, I had to force myself to make this video because I was about to eat that last motherfucking apple. I mean, you know, I'm making this video because I wanted to eat that apple. You know what I'm saying? And now to the KiKu apple. It is a much larger apple. This apple is, I would say, easily twice the size of even the largest SugarBee. It is very firm, very sturdy. Fills up your whole hand. As I was saying earlier, it's got a nice coloration to it with some beautiful light streaks of yellow. So let's crack straight into it. I have to say, for an apple of this size, I'm surprised by two things. One, it feels firmer in your hand, but when you take a bite, it's actually easier to bite into than the SugarBee. I would say the SugarBee is crispier than the KiKu apple. The second thing that surprises me is just how sweet an apple this large is, and how not only sweet, but just like the SugarBee, how it also has a nice complex apple flavor to it. Very delicious apple. Very delicious. Great flavor. A similar flavor to the SugarBee, but not as intense. Slightly milder. And that comes with the size of the apple as well. I do have to say, it is extremely juicy. It's easily within the top 3 of the juiciest apples we've tried. The skin is very thin. Another apple that has almost completely flavorless skin. We're going to take another bite and see if we can really focus in and let you know a little bit more about it. Yes, the skin is very mild, very delicate, very thin, easily chewed, easily edible. Great apple. Again, extremely juicy. As you continue to eat the apple, it only becomes more and more evident of just how much juice is in this apple. As I'm sure you can tell, it is a much larger apple. As you can see, an outstanding core to apple ratio. Over here, you can look and see that there is a massive amount of apple in comparison to the core. Now, I probably could have taken this down a little bit more, but let's try to be a little dignified with things. The KiKu apple, I'm not for sure exactly where it originates from, but I will say it has a great shelf life. That apple, similar to the SugarBees, were about 3 to 4 weeks old. That one actually, the KiKu seems to hold up a little bit better than the SugarBee, neither of which showed any bruising or any degrading or anything like that, any mushiness or sandiness of the apple flesh. But I will say, as time extends past the 2 or 3 week period, the flavor of a SugarBee can start to mature, if you know what I mean. And that can be a little off-putting to some people. That is a rarity, especially if you're going to be eating the apples. They're not going to stick around long enough for you to even have to worry about that problem. Both apples stand up extremely well. Both apples have beautiful color, beautiful rich color. The SugarBee might be one of the most beautiful apples I've ever seen. The KiKu has a lovely color pattern to it with nice red, body with beautiful, we'll say, blonde highlights. Both apples are extremely sweet and have very deep and complex apple flavors. It's really hard for me to pick a favorite here, but out of these two, I'm gonna have to lean towards the KiKu for one reason and one reason only. It's just a bigger apple. It's a bigger apple. It's a little easier to eat. It is crispy, but it's not as, we'll say, it's not as dense as the SugarBee. This is like Ambrosia #1, KiKu 2, SugarBee 3. That's how great both of these apples are. If you ever run across either variety, the KiKu, which is sold in a very specific bag, if you see it, you will know it. And then the SugarBee is very similar. I think you're able to buy them in bulk, but I also think the SugarBee is in a very specific bag, brand, and logo as well. Both apples are great. They're both at about, we'll say, $5.50 for 3 pounds, which isn't bad. You ever had a KiKu apple? Have you ever heard of a KiKu apple? If you have, let me know. If you haven't, get your ass out there and try one. And I'm still singing the praises of the Ambrosia. Oh, Ambrosia apples, all right? Get your ass out there, try some fruit. It's good for your teeth. It's good for your body. It's good for you. Look at me here. If you're going to take dietary advice from anybody, ain't you going to take it from a man with a set of double D breasts? Feel free to leave any comments below. Like the video if you want. I'm not going to hound anybody to do that shit. I personally don't like videos unless they're music myself. But hey, it helps. It helps with discoverability. It helps with my self-esteem and confidence and validation. All right, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry, but we'll probably have at least one more apple video. You want to see my big fat ass eat something? You want to hear me crunching in the microphone? You let me know. Hell, is the ASMR even a part of it that's worth it? I thought it was a nice little gimmick, just kind of a jokey little ironic chuckle, you know? Who knows? There's some feeders out there, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? All you chubby chasers, get down there in the comments. All right, now we'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.